Get ready for the next fight! What's going on, YouTube? This is D-Rec here with Argo, bringing you yet another Cardfight Vanguard feature match with commentary. In today's match, we have new archetypes coming out of DZBT07. On the right, my buddy Kevin here is playing the new Veissrugr archetype. And on the left, I am playing Levidras, featuring some of the new support out of DZBT07 as well. If you guys like today's video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for future content. I'll be doing more of these and some coverage going into the Summer Bushiroad Summerfest 2025 season. Looking at some of the events as they come up, checking the meta-analysis and making sure that we're keeping up to date with some of the decks that are going to be in Standard, Premium, as well as the Lyrical Monasterio archetype there. We have those half and half, some events having the premium event and then having the Lyrical Monasterio event. But getting back into today's match, I'll be taking the first turn, riding into the grade 1 and then passing, and then Kevin will be riding into his grade 1, and that's going to allow him to search for the Moon Gate, a really critical piece of the deck, being able to allow for superior calling units and making sure that he's able to maintain board presence. And then once we get into his grade 3, that's going to allow him to really extend on some of his battle phase strategies going into his first grade 3 turn in this game here. But the early game is going to be pretty much just ramp setting up and then making sure that the early game pressure is applied. For myself, it's going to be coming down to that just because we aren't running the Dual Nation card. I'll have a deck list coming up in a couple days there, but for our list, we are not running the grade 2 Dual Nation card that would otherwise allow us to have some generic extension in the early game, but we are playing the new grade 2, which, even though it does rely on having the Infinity Eyes markers for its first skill, its second skill does not require it, and it will allow us to help deck thin a little bit going into the mid-game there. So we're going to call one out there after we go into our grade 2 turn, swinging in for 10k, and then resolving the skill to check the top 7 for a Levidras grade 3 there. We have a couple options there for my top 7 check. We're going to go for the base form there. That's going to allow us to extend into Empireo skills there. If you are familiar with Empireo skill, then we want to make sure that we have opportunities to soul charge from the hand the base form of the grade 3 so that we can get the 3 Infinity Eyes markers, and that's going to beef up some of the power that we're going to get on the Vanguard circle for each name in the soul for Empireo. And then swinging Vanguard here for the 1 check, and we only check the PG there. So 2-1 going into Kevin's first grade 2 turn here. Or I guess it's only grade 2 turn here, but he's going to have an opportunity to set up a little bit there. The deck does run the Wolf, and the Wolf is good for the multi-attacking, but only if he has the grade 3. However, it is good for getting the extra draw there. The Counter Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw is exceptionally nice. He rides into the Vassal grade 2. Now, the Vassal grade 2 is going to allow him to check the top 7 for a Mythisch card there, up to 2. One gets to go to hand, and then the other one is going to go to the Order Zone there. And it really comes down to what he wants to choose. I think ideally he wants to go for the Wolf, and then he wants to go for the Crow. And the Crow will go to the Order Zone there. He'll be able to call that out later with the grade 3 skill, and the Wolf he can call from hand. And then he'll be able to resolve that skill when he goes into his swings. He's going to add the Wolf here. That's going to be a really good grab for him. He doesn't get anything else, so he ends up reshuffling that back into the deck, and then no additional cards to the Order Zone this turn. Not a whole lot of setup there for his Veissrugr turn, but he may have the opportunity to do so later on. When he gets into his grade 3 turn, he'll be able to check for 3 instead of just the 1. And hopefully once we get to grade 3, we'll be able to see more out of the Moon Gate, being able to play it twice in one turn with Veissrugr's skill, as well as just hard casting the Moon Gate ability by paying the 3 energy and then tapping it for the turn. So we'll see more accelerated deck thinning, as well as setting up that Order Zone with more options for superior calling during the battle phase. He grabs the grade 2 Crow Mystic. And that's pretty interesting to see that it's a $2 to $4 card at any given time, just because you do run up to 16 copies of it. I see some lists mostly play 15, just to allow an extra room for another additional tech choice. We're going to take the rear guard swing and then guard the Vanguard for the 2 to pass, or the OT to pass in this instance, and he does not break through, even though he does check the crit there. So we're safe at 3. We are behind on damage a little bit there. We don't want to be too far behind. Potentially be able to heal down to 2 in this given turn here, depending on how we go about setting up our board. Again, we have cards like Antagonista that's going to allow us to filter the top 2. We're going to go into Manticide skill first, checking top 5 for a card, and then it's going to allow us to get a bit more setup. We grab the new grade 2, and he can get up to 20k on his own, or sorry, 15k rather, on his own, but then depending on how you set up the Infinity Eyes markers, it will allow you to give additional power around the board, making sure that you're able to hit for magic numbers and getting around defensive trigger checks, so you can still swing for hits, require guard value, and making sure that you're establishing some board presence there. A nice alternative tech before with just the Antagonister, and then obviously you play the Charme. That's going to allow you to have a good front row and then the back row as well. So you do staggered front back row with the grade 2 and the grade 3, and then you have the other grade 2 rare that lets you filter from drop to get a board back, and then you play the booster, and then you have the other double rare grade 1 that you can move. And that would be your traditional board setup, but having an additional grade 2 option that can power up your board a bit more, in addition to just having the Charme, is going to be nice. So we go into the order card there to check for a card that we can call to the rear guard here. Now, I already see 1 option there, but I think we have 2 in total. It's going to allow us to filter for a board a bit more. Fortunately, we have the 1 copy of the booster in the damage zone right now, the Foxel. So I don't think at this point in time I do have another one in hand, so we're really relying on being able to find one, and that will allow us to set up for additional back row attacks if we can get a second copy of Foxil from the deck onto the board. And this is all pre Kevin's grade 3 turn here, so we're really trying to apply some pressure, catch back up from the 3 damage that we're currently at. We're going to go into the grade 2. That lets us fetch from the drop zone there. And that's going to give us something of a board back a little bit. I don't know what my options are at the moment in the drop. I think I only have the other grade 2 there that would call out. And I believe at this time, the way his skill is worded, since he wasn't originally placed on an Infinity Eyes marker, then he doesn't get the first or the second skill. I may be wrong in that. Double check me in the comments below if you get the second half of that skill, even if he's not called on an Infinity Eyes marker first there. It's the wording escaped me in this moment. I resolved it without doing either of the power bonuses for this turn. And you have the Charme in the front there. Right now, and I believe we have the 1 copy of the moving grade 1 in hand right now. It's just kind of the contemplation of being able to do anything with that if we call that to the back row behind. And we're not going to call it, we're just going to swing. This is going to be 18 for the additional +1 from, or +5 rather, from having 1 of the base form in the soul. And no checks on the grade 3 turn there, dealing 1 damage. We're still coming in for decent magic numbers here. That's going to be 30. And with this, we'll have 2 additional attacks after this. Nothing from the Panther in the back there. Charmaine is going to swing in next. We're going to eat the Antagonister behind it. And that's going to come in for 23, and we'll be able to draw off that after this. So guard that 25. We draw the 1. And then we'll swing in for 30 with our last, going in at the Vanguard there. And he will guard that for the lump there. I believe that was an overguard of 30k. So he discards the Wolf, and that's going to go into his grade 3 turn there, riding Veissrugr for his first grade 3 turn. And he will have an opportunity to set up a bit more. He's going to order right away, which is probably for the best. He's going to get +5 to the existing unit on the field there, And anything else that comes in afterwards is going to come in with +10, +5 from being called, and then +5 from being on the board. And that's going to allow him to set up decently sized columns, and then once he resolves Veissrugr's skill to be able to activate the Moon Gate without paying the cost, he's going to be able to get an additional card to his board, and then 2 to the Order Zone. Really setting up for the multi-attack. I think he only has 1 card in hand at the moment, so it's going to come down to how he goes about. He reveals 3 crows. He's going to take one of those, put it on the board, and then the other 2 are going to go to the Order Zone there. That's a really nice thing to see there. And obviously the deck runs 15 to 16 copies of this card, so it's pretty easy to see, and it gets boosts, so having that opportunity to set up a decent set of columns there is going to be really nice for his first grade 3 turn, coming back a little bit off of my first grade 3 turn there. We're even at damage right now, so it's going to come down to how I'm able to guard, or rather take damage, and then hope for defensive checks to stave off some of those additional power bonus columns there, because right now we have that 1 column on the right with an additional +15 on it. And then if he calls anything to the left column there, that's going to come in, again, be a +20 column as well. And he's going to do the Moon Gate officially this time around, so he has the second chance to do the Moon Gate skill. He's going to call 1 more of the Crow, and the other one's going to go to the Order Zone there. Being able to activate the Moon Gate twice in a turn is really substantial for being able to deck thin and then set up a board at the same time. Really relying on no use of hand at this point, just as for defensive opportunities. And he's going to call the Wolf, and the Wolf's going to be able to attack the front row if he so chooses to do so. I forget how he has to activate that, though. Alright, so he's swinging with the right column first. And that's going to, again, be +15. And I do have the opportunity to use the Infinity Eyes marker here. So we are going to eat the marker there. That's going to be coming in, let's see, it's 10, 20, 25. And we got 33. And he's going to swing Vanguard next. And he's going to use the skill to call 2 cards from the Order Zone. He's going to get another column back, and this one's going to come in with +20k total, resolving the effect of the order. So where is... I'm going to say no guard here. And he checks no offensive triggers. Safe for us. Definitely didn't want to get hit with something like that. Now coming in for 40 with the right column, the new column there that just came in. And we'll overguard that with the over trigger. Pun intended. And he is going to do the on attack Energy Blast 3 to draw. Okay, and I don't believe he chooses to do the skill there, which is interesting. I don't think he resolved the grade 2 Wolf skill to attack both my grade 2 in the front there as well as my Vanguard. And I believe it is a mandatory effect, do as much of the skill as possible there, so if there is a rear guard in the front row for you to choose with the Wolf's ability, you do choose it. It doesn't say up to, it does say 1, and then it attacks the Vanguard and that one chosen rear guard there, so for future reference. Going into our turn now, we're going to do Levidras' skill again, getting 3 Infinity Eyes markers, doing the skill again to push 1 to the soul. Now we have the opportunity to use Divine Skill, and I am going to activate it now. So blasting the 1, we're going to get 2 more Infinity Eyes markers, and he's going to get the extra +10 and a crit here. So this is going to be a really big turn, being able to apply some crit pressure and then seeing if we can't get more power to the front. So we're going to call one there where the Panther Rat is, and then one over there. So both of his columns are now set up with markers so that if he does do multi-attacking next turn, if he gets to his next turn, then he's not going to be able to get too much power. We'll be able to neg power twice in one column. And then for our field right now, we have 3 individual circles getting an extra plus 10. We're going to double check here to see. I don't think I have the Foxel in the drop zone just yet. So a couple options there. I think I have another of that grade 2 that calls from the drop in that top 2 check there. Just comes down to what it is that we want to go for. If we want to call something from the drop again, or do we want to potentially get another front row card. I don't think I have another Charmney in the hand at the moment, but we have the one in the drop there. We can resolve that skill. So, and we do add another copy of the Antagonister. And it gets really technical, especially with board setup. You want to make sure that you're able to multi-attack properly. Any one misplacement can really throw off a good Levidras turn and turn it into a really bad Levidras turn, even if you have a really good setup opportunity in your hand or in the drop. Between the Charmneys, if you called the grade 2, calling a booster out like a Foxil, or the other grade 1 that moves around after it boosts. So we are going to do the Charmney skill. We Soul Blast the 1 for the cost. That's going to go, we call it in front of the Antagonister, or do we eat the other front row circle there? Pre-DZBT07, I think the ideal board setup is you have Charmney in the front, and then in the opposing back row rear circle you have the Antagonister, and then you have the booster that moves behind the Charmney. So you swing Antagonister first, and then when you would swing Charmney you do boost, and then you move that booster that moves with Foxil skill over to the circle that the Antagonister was in prior, so you get maximum opportunities to swing or boost. Not sure if that was the proper play or not. Again, we could have done the same thing for the other side, but I don't think I have the Foxil, so that's going to make the setup of this turn, so we won't have a way to give something in the back row boost, or rather attack from the back row. So we're going to call the double rare grade 1 there to the back there in front behind the Levidras. It won't be moving so long as we don't have the Foxil, so and before going into our swings there, I want to make sure that I calculate the powers post Divine Skill, so the 15 into crit. And he's sitting at plus 15 for having 3 names in the soul, plus the Persona Ride. So we're going to have a pretty solid amount of power here, plus the boost. And he's going to resolve Veissrugr's skill here. He bottom decks something with Mystic in its name, and he gives whatever he calls, if it's a Mystic in name, to the Guardian Circle, an additional plus 5k shield. So that's going to survive that Charmney attack there. And we're going to resolve Charmney, drawing the additional card. And then we're going to go into our Vanguard swing here. And after this, we'll have 2 additional swings. We'll have the Antagonister in the back, and then on how we move the other grade 1 there behind the Panther Rat, that's going to allow us to swing for bigger numbers there. Ooh, so we're able to see a crit on that swing there. So I'm swinging for 3 damage. He didn't guard it, so that's 3 damage coming in. That could put him to 6 unless he heals at 6. This might be game here. And then we have an additional crit on top of that, 4 damage. To him being at 3, so he needs to heal twice, either heal or OT on 6, and/or. That's 5. And that is 6-4 game. So we didn't have the opportunity to use Foxil in this game, but it didn't matter too much because we were able to apply that pressure. and come in, making sure that he's able not to be able to do anything there. But that is today's feature match. Thank you again for watching. Again, if you liked today's video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for future content. Again, we will be doing more content as we get closer to the beginning of the Bushiroad Summerfest 2025 tournament season. So stay tuned for more content videos and analyses of meta going into the beginning of the season there. Until our next video, guys, take care.